Hello, seventh grade. What I want to do is a couple things. I want to talk to you a little bit. I want to talk to you a little bit about distribution, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about combining like terms, and then I want to put it all together into a problem that utilizes both properties and both. You need to bring in both pieces to accomplish the mission of solving the problem. So let's move on to those two types of problems, and then we'll show how we combine them together. So let's look first now let's not look at this one first. Let's start by looking here. And this, we're going to look at, right, this is going to be distribution problems. And on distribution problems, we remember that the key is we're going to use our arrow tool, and we're going to solve these problems by circling the key pieces that need to be multiplied together. So we're going to take this first number that's outside our parentheses, and we're going to multiply it by the terms that are inside the parentheses. And I'm going to just circle this stuff with the two things that I'm going to do the multiplication on to make this easier. So we're going to need to take the number outside, and we're going to multiply it by our first term and then again by our second term. So when we take 2 and we multiply it by x, we can't simplify that any more than saying 2x. Then we're going to take our 2 and we're going to multiply it by our negative to our minus sign, and a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. So we're just going to write that like that, and then we're going to say 2 times 2 is 4. And there's our answer, our distribution problem. Now, there are other ways to think about multiplying a 2 times a 2 that's being subtracted. But again, I like this approach because it reduces the number of steps that you have to think about, and you always get the right answer. So let's try that same strategy on this next distribution problem, and let's see if you can solve it. So pause the video and see if you can solve it using the same technique, and then I'm going to walk you through the answer. Okay. All right. So now I've assumed that you've done that work, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just circle the same things that I circled above, and then we're going to see if we can copy the strategy here. So we got to take our -4 and we got to multiply it by both things in here because we have 2 terms inside our parentheses. Okay, so we're going to take it, and you know, it doesn't matter if these are squares or circles, but we're going to multiply it by these things and to get our answer. So now let's go and let's say, well, -4 times a -2x, and negative times a negative is a positive. So I know my answer is positive. I'm going to multiply 4 by 2, and I'm going to get my 8 and x. So 4 times 2x is 8x, and it should be positive because we have a negative times a negative. Then we're going to take our -4 and multiply it by a +3. So we know a negative times a positive is a negative. So we know this is going to be subtracted. And a 4 times a 3 is a 12. I'll just do one more, and I'm going to show you that this works also for when we multiply by 3 things. So I'm going to say a plus 2b plus 5. Now, again, I'd like you just to pause and try and solve this, and then I'm going to go ahead and solve it for you. So try and solve this on your own. If you just watch me do it, you may think you're going to get it, but you don't really do it. So make sure that you have the right answer before you keep going. Okay. All right, now I'm going to assume that you've paused it, tried it, and now you're coming back, and you're just going to verify that you got the right answer. Here we have 3 terms, so we're going to have 3 multiplications. And I really like using the circles and the arrows. Sometimes if you try and shortcut this, especially early on when you're doing this work, you're not giving yourself every advantage to get the answer right. So let's try this. 3 times a is 3a. 3 times 2b, it's all positive, so that's 3 times 2 is 6 times b. and 3 times positive 5 is positive 15. So there's our distribution 3 times. Now we're going to go towards combining like terms. So let's look at this page, and we're going to talk about combining like terms. This is not distribution. This is taking terms that are similar and putting different shapes around them and then combining them. So let's look. Things that are like terms, all numbers are like terms. Things without variables. So just flat out numbers are like terms. So let's circle those like terms. A 2 and a 6. These have no variables attached to them. Now let's look at other like terms. And we have x's. So because these x's have the same variable and the same and no exponents, these are also like terms. So I'm going to put a box around those. And now I can combine like terms. And I've said that that numbers are like terms. So if I take a positive 2 and a positive 6, I can combine those, just like in a normal math problem. And that's a positive 8. Now let's look at a 4x and a negative 2x. The way that I combine like terms, if I have 4 x's and negative 2 x's, it's just like having 4 apples and negative 2 apples, or 4 oranges and I take away 2 oranges. So 4 minus 2 is 2x. And we bring our x down. So we're going to take this x and we're going to say we have 2 of them because we had 4 and then we took away 2. 4 and minus 2 makes 2x. Okay? So I'd like you to use that same strategy on this next one and see if you can solve it. Okay. All right, I'm going to assume that you did your boxes and circles on this next one and you've written it down and you have the right answer and you're just watching me solve it to verify that you have done the right thing. And so we're going to box our x's because those are like terms. And I'm going to show you in a little bit when we have x squareds how you deal with those, and they're the exact same way. But we're going to worry about that in a second. So we're going to circle our like terms, and we boxed our other like terms, and we're circling these in red because those are the same thing. They're numbers. A positive 2 and a negative 5 is a negative 3. Okay? A 3x and a negative 7x is going to be a negative number, right? Because a negative 7 is more than positive 3. So our answer is going to be negative 4x. And there's our answer. If we have 3 x's and we take away 7, we actually have negative x's because we took away 3 and we got to 0, and then we have 4 more to take away. And so we end up with negative 4x minus 3. Okay. Let me do one more combining like terms problem. And this one's going to be for those of you who are ending up with some x squared problems. So let's look at it like this. 2x squared minus 5x plus 3x squared plus 10x. Okay? Now, like terms are terms that have the same variable and the same exponent. So let's see. X squareds are like x squareds. X squareds are not like x's when I combine them. So I can only take 2x squareds and 3x squareds as like terms. Negative 5x and positive 3x squared are not like 5x and 10x because they have an x squared term. So I can only combine my x squared terms. And then my x's are the same, my 10x and my negative 5x. So my final answer here is 2x squared and 3x squared is, I have 2x squareds, I have 3 more x squareds, I have 5x squareds. And here I have negative 5x and I add 10x. So I had my negative 5, I add 10, so I have the 5 that gets me back to 0 and 5 more that makes it positive 5x. And so there's my answer. Good. Now we're going to get to the combination that one student asked me about tonight, and she saw a problem that looked like this. And all this is a distribution and combining like terms. This is both. So here we have to get rid, we can't combine like terms first. We must distribute first because things that we can't add things inside parentheses. We can't add things outside of parentheses to things inside parentheses. So we must get rid of parentheses first. And the way you do it is you just look at this. How do we get rid of those parentheses? You look at this problem and you say, wow, that's a distribution problem. So we're just going to take that distribution problem and copy it here. And then we're going to take the other part and we're just going to copy it down here. So we're just going to put the -6v right here because that's not part of the distribution problem. We're going to do this problem first. Remember how we do that. We're going to take our arrows. And we're going to take our 3 and we're going to multiply it by our v and our -3. So 3 times v is 3v. And 3 times -3 is -9. And now we have a problem that now all the parentheses have been removed, so now we can combine like terms. So let's look at our like terms. Well, -9 is a number, so that's its own thing. And then we have these v terms. Well, we have a -6v and a 3v. So we can take a 3v and add it to and combine it with a -6v, and we get, well, it's got to be negative because we have 3v's. We take away 6. Well, we take away 3 of them, and that gets us back to 0. And then we have -3v more, -3v. And then we just take our -9 and move it down. And so that's our answer. So we distributed, and then we combine like terms. So let me give you another problem while we're at it for you to try on your own. I'll even make it a little bit trickier. I'll add another term in there. So you try this one, distribute first, and then combine like terms and see how you do. So we're going to take, now I'm going to solve. I'm assuming you've tried this on your own. And so we're going to work the distribution problem, and then we're just going to copy these things down to the next phase of the problem. Because this is not a part of the distribution. So I'm just going to copy those down. We're going to distribute here to get rid of the parentheses. Okay, so let's take our -2 and multiply it by x. And also by our +4. So we have -2x, -2 times x, and -2 times a +4. A negative times a positive is a -8. And so now we have this problem we're going to try and solve. And this is a combining like terms problem. So let's combine the terms. So we have -2x and +4x. And then we have a -8, which is like a -5. So our answer, -2x and +4x, is 2x. Start with -2, and we add back 2 of them to get to 0. And then you have 2x more. -8 plus -5 is -13. And there is your answer. Okay. So I hope this helped. And that's the lesson. That's the lesson on distribution, combining like terms, and then the combination of combining like terms and distribution problems. So I hope that helps. Let me know tomorrow in class how this worked for you. And feel free to ask me any more questions. I'm happy to do more videos. I'll see you later in class.